The Philco PT-25 actually has a electrodynamic speaker utilizing a fill coil. I happen to have this used up Philco 4-inch loudspeaker. I may try to recone it. As I noted, a 4-inch loudspeaker PM version. And you can see it has degraded over time, the cone, etc. One thing interesting, you'll notice this retaining ring that seems to hold the spider in. We'll get these screws out and take a look. Indeed it does, just a metal ring with a cardboard backer on the other side. I can't tell if it had adhesive on it at one time, possibly so. And it just seems to apply pressure to hold the spider in place. You can see here I've got the leads disconnected going to the voice coil itself, and we'll hook up a meter here just to measure the DC resistance and look at the inductance as well for reference. With the retaining ring that holds the spider in place loosened up and removed, I thought I'd go ahead and pull out the voice coil, and you can see another problem here. The center pole piece has been pushed over to one side and had mashed the voice coil in between the center pole piece, or the core, back over to the magnetic gap. So the voice coil was broken and damaged, and here you can see I'm trying to fix things, placing some shims in place, and then using some epoxy back around the secure locking pin. Not sure if this will hold long term, but again, it's worth a try to see if we can stabilize the core or center pole piece. And then I happen to have multiple voice coils that I wound that we'll try to utilize here. You may ask, why start with the loudspeaker? I wanted to make certain that it would actually fit with inside the cabinet and on the chassis itself. So you can see I had to drill a couple holes here, get the loudspeaker mounted, make sure that I still had separation between one of the tubes there closest to the speaker frame. Also, my opening here for the window for the dial was not compromised, in addition to the IF transformer that I just placed in here. So you can see it's a real snug fit. That leaves the output transformer, and if I've measured it correctly, I'll be able to sneak it in by about 1 millimeter or less on top of the speaker frame itself. Since we now know the loudspeaker itself fits, let's measure the cone itself that we'll need to reproduce. And all I'm doing is measuring the width of the cone, which is right at 4 inches. I actually broke this down in millimeters, and then measure the height. And here you can see I have the cone as well, leaving the correct diameter for the voice coil. And again, I had already mentioned I had wound a few voice coils previously, so I was fortunate I was able to use one of the many voice coils that wound that happened to fit the center pole piece or core. And I was able to successfully remove the old spider and reutilize it. Here I'm doing a dry fit to make sure I've got the height of the voice coil correct inside that magnetic gap that you can see here. And using some epoxy to get it in place with some shims. And we'll just let it dry for a few hours. And then we can go ahead and move forward getting the cone in place. And you can see here I'm using my circle cutter to produce a new gasket to go around the 4-inch loudspeaker before placing the cone in place, getting it glued down, and spraying the paper with a plastic dip. And here's the loudspeaker in action.